Hello everyone and welcome to the YouTube channel of Being ACCA. This is Tushita Gupta and in this video we are getting started with our FM pre-June mock of 2026. This is the section B of your paper, the very first case study that we have, and the name of this question is Foley Company. So looking at just a quick glance at the first requirement itself, I can very easily gauge that this question is testing me from the valuation area of the syllabus, and we know that valuation is a very commonly expected question in the section B of our paper. So let's read through the case study and get started. Foley Company is a small unlisted manufacturing company. Okay, so we are small also, unlisted also. They have seen steady growth in recent years, making them attractive for larger companies to acquire. So there are larger companies who want to acquire this small company. A larger listed competitor, J Stays PLC, has noticed their strong performance and is looking to acquire Foley Company. Financial information has been given. The total assets, their book value is $8.5 million. Liabilities I know of. Estimated realizable value of non-current assets is $2.0 million. So basically $2 million higher than the book value. Earnings after tax are $800,000. Recent dividend history has been given to me. Cost of equity is given. Shares in issue are $1 million worth of nominal value, where every share has a value of 0.5. So this information will be helpful for me to calculate the number of shares. If this is the total value, this is the worth of one share, I can simply divide with the 1 million figure with 0.5 to find out the number of shares that this company has. Further financial information is given for my competitor itself, J Stays PLC. So they have a PE ratio of 15 times, and since Foley Company is unlisted, a discount of 30% is usually applied to the PE ratio of a listed proxy. So the very first requirement wants me to calculate what is the value of one share in Foley Company using the net assets using the realizable value method. So I have to use the NRV over here and find out the worth of one share of the company. So firstly, I need to find out what is the total value of the company, total worth of the company in realizable value terms. Book value I know is $8.5 million, and I had read in the question that the estimated realizable values of the current assets are actually 2 million, non-current assets, sorry, are actually 2 million higher than the book value. So whatever I have as 8.5, my realizable value is actually 10.5. From this, I take away my liabilities worth 3.5. 10.5. From this, I take away 3.5. So this gives me my net assets using the realizable value of $7 million. Now, this is $7 million, and I am being told how many number of shares do I have? This is the total worth of the company. I want to answer for one share. So for one share, I have to simply divide $7 million with the number of shares that the company has. So let's see how many number of shares does the company have. Total of $1 million is there in terms of nominal value, and per share has a nominal value of 0.5. That means there are 2 million number of shares. So 7 divided by 2 will give me the value of one share, that is $3.5. So my final answer over here is $3.5. Very simple. Let's proceed to the next question. I have to calculate the total value of Foley Company using the dividend valuation model. So dividend valuation model, simply we need the growth rate, the DVM formula. So for growth rate, because it's not directly given to me, I have to use the geometric growth formula, because the different years dividends has been given to me. So firstly, I need to calculate how much my growth rate over here is. So for my growth rate, I take my most recent dividend. My most recent dividend is 330,750, dividing this with the oldest dividend. So the oldest dividend that we have is $300,000. So this gives me this number. Now this number needs to be raised to the power of 1 by n. N is how many years this growth is applicable over. So between 20x1 to x2 there's 1 year, and between 20x2 to x3 there's another year. So this growth has applied over 2 years. Over 2 years the dividend grew to this number. So I will raise it to the power of 1 by 2. And then from this figure, I am going to subtract 1. So that is going to tell me how much my growth rate is. It's showing me that it is 1 by 20. If you calculate 1 by 20, this is roughly 5% growth rate that the company is having. Now we can simply use the DVM formula. Even if you guys do not remember the DVM formula, it's no problem. The formula is given to me over here on the formula sheet. Also, this sheet will also be provided to you on the day of your exam. So you have to take this year's dividend D0, multiply it with 1 plus G. So let me see how much dividend has been paid by the company this year. The latest dividend that we have is 20x3. So 330, 750, and we have just now calculated the growth rate to be 0.5% or 0.05. So I will just multiply this with 1.05. So this tells me my numerator. Then for my denominator, I'm supposed to take my cost of equity. So cost of equity is already given as 10. So 0.1 minus the growth rate, which is 0.05. So I close the brackets, hit enter, and this is actually the total value of the company that I have calculated. So here the total itself has been asked, so I do not need to divide this with the number of shares to get the one share value. This over here has to be my final answer, and it is asked for me to calculate to the nearest dollars. So lucky for us, there are no decimals also, otherwise we would have to round it off. So 694,550. Please guys, be very careful while you are copy pasting your digits from your calculator to your final answer. Double check it's 694,550. So this is the final answer that we will enter over here. Heading forward to the third question basis this case study. Which of the following statements best explain why Stace PLC would prefer to use an earnings-based valuation method over a net asset method to value the Foley company? So basically, I have to give a reason why the competitor, the person who wants to acquire me, they would want to use an earnings-based method rather than the net assets-based method. So guys, you have to remember, even before you read the options that are available over here, you guys have to remember what method is appropriate under what circumstances. So if you talk about the net assets method, have a look at your calculation. What are you doing? You are finding out the worth of the assets after taking away the liabilities. So that means you're just getting to know that if I'm selling the assets in the market, how much money can I gather from that? So you are doing it from the perspective of selling the assets. Now, when you are doing an earnings-based valuation, you are actually interested in what the company is earning, what the company could potentially earn in the future. So this is the main distinction between the two methods. Now let us read the options and select the one which will be the right here. Net assets method is more complex to calculate and often results in a higher valuation. This is not a very valid reason. PE method is governed by accounting standards, making it more reliable for the taxation purposes. Guys, PE ratio, the price earnings method, your books of accounts are subject to manipulation. The earnings that you're using, it can be from the manipulated figures. So this is also not the right reason. The third statement says PE method focuses on the earning potential of the target business, which aligns with the synergy benefits that the acquirer aims to achieve. This absolutely sounds relevant to me because another competitor wants to acquire my company because how good I am doing. So they want to continue my business to see how both of the businesses can align together and beat the other competitors. So this statement sounds absolutely accurate. Let me also also have a look at the fourth statement. The net assets method is only appropriate for companies that are being liquidated or broken up. So this word only, this is a little bit problematic over here. You should not try to generalize. Basically, the net assets method gives you a minimum price, and this can be used for negotiations and other things. So it does not really reflect what the company is going to earn in the future. That is why the third statement is the most relevant answer. Moving ahead to the second last question basis this case study. What is the value of Foley company's equity using the PE ratio method adjusted for the unlisted company discount? So I have to adjust for the fact that this company is unlisted, so they have slightly lesser value than a listed company. So I have the PE ratio given to me of J Stace. J Stace is a listed company. So if I'm using their PE ratio, my valuation will not be exactly the same as them. I will have to apply a 30% discount. So let's first calculate the value using the PE ratio method. So PE ratio method simply says if you want to find out the value of the company, it will be the PE ratio multiplied by the earnings after tax. So these are given to you as $800,000. So this should be the worth of the company. But now guys, my company is not a listed company, so I have to also discount this figure. So how do I discount? They say 30% discount is applicable. So I take away 30% from here. So into 1 minus 0.3. So you hit enter, and this is the worth of the company. It's $8.4 million that I should be selecting as my final answer. Now guys, moving ahead to the very last question pertaining to this case study, I have to decide using the options what is the form of efficiency that the market has. An investor performs fundamental analysis to make investment decisions. So which sort of market is the efficiency of the market is this investor believing in? So guys, if you remember when we were studying about our concepts, first of all, in any market that is not efficient at all, there would not be any value of doing fundamental analysis. So that cannot be my answer. Strong form market already includes my public as well as private information. So fundamental analysis cannot help me beat the market in the strong market as well. In a semi-strong market, my publicly available information is reflected already in the share price very quickly. So again, doing a fundamental analysis cannot help me. We've studied that in semi-strong markets, it's usually insider information that is needed to make abnormal gains. Now, when you talk about the weak form efficiency, we've spoken about how the patterns do not repeat themselves. So a person who's doing a technical analysis won't be able to succeed. But if a person wants to succeed in the future, make abnormal returns in the future, they can go with fundamental analysis. What they must do in that is they will read through the information about the company, the financial statements, the future prospects, the industries, how the industry outlook as a whole looks. So all of this information, because in a weak form market, even the news takes time to absorb. So it can be possible for you to analyze fundamental information and with the help of that, try to predict what will happen in the future. So the investor is believing that the market is weak form efficient. So guys, this was Foley Company, the section B, very first case study that we have as part of the PM pre-June mock of 2026. I hope that you people found this video useful, and I wish you all the very best for your final exam. I'll see you in the next video, wherein we are going to continue solving this mock further.